prime thing is you have to win.
Ill intent, violence, physicality, pain. Enough is enough.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Just Win podcast. This is episode 5. That's Tashan Reed. That's Vic Tafur. I'm Ted Nguyen. And today we are going to have Malcolm Koonce, budding star pass rusher for the Raiders, coming on a little bit after we discuss a few topics that are on hand. First thing we're going to talk about is the quarterback competition and who, quote unquote, won that competition and how it's going to affect this team moving forward. So how you guys doing? And let's get started on that topic.
Man, Minshew mania, baby. Let's go. Fans are fired up.
Yeah, we should have known when you had to read that article.
No, I think, like you said, it wasn't a matter of who won. I guess it was kind of who survived the battle. I think, Pierce mentioned he wanted someone to kind of assert themselves, and it didn't really happen. So he kind of had to make a choice based on experience, based on his capability. Obviously, Gardner's better at getting out of trouble. And so I think it makes sense. I think you can't really argue with logic too much.
Yeah, I was a little surprised. I don't think I was alone in that. But I thought against the Cowboys, which, Antonio Pierce announced before the game, he was going to, declare who the starter was afterwards. I thought O'Connell was better than Minshew in that game, despite, throwing a pick six at the end there. I thought Minshew just never really looked really uncomfortable, which was kind of surprising. Like, obviously the Raiders didn't have their full starters out there, but the Cowboys essentially just played all backups, and he really, really struggled, in my opinion. I mean, he's a lot of off-target throws. Timing was off. He nearly threw his own pick six when he went for it on that fourth down. So he didn't really impress me. Not that O'Connell was like Tom Brady or anything like that, but I thought he started pretty well and played pretty solidly up until that interception. So obviously it wasn't just about performance in that game, but since OTAs, like neither one of these guys had really separated themselves, in my opinion. I thought they were about the similar level of like struggling, like neither one of them really looked good or strung together much consistency, but I just didn't think Minshew had separated himself or vice versa. And so it seemed like he would stick with the incumbent guy. But like you said, maybe Minshew's mobility played a little bit of a factor. Obviously they have some injuries on the offensive line, so that might be more important earlier on in the season. He's more experienced. They said he's operated the offense better. And so I guess there wasn't really a wrong choice, but it was kind of a curious one, I think, given the lead up to it.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think I would have personally leaned towards Aidan O'Connell, but I don't feel too strongly about it either way, which is kind of, I guess, the overall feeling of this quarterback competition. But I agree with you. I think O'Connell outplayed Minshew in that Cowboys game. He did throw that pick six towards the end of the game, but Minshew almost threw a pick six at the beginning of the game that was almost the exact same type of play, where Minshew just kind of, it was a quick game, a quick pass to a slant, and he kind of stared down his receiver. Defender got right into it, almost picked it off. And he also threw 2 more passes that landed right into the Cowboys defender's hands that just didn't get caught. And, sometimes it comes down to just luck. And he was lucky that those balls didn't get picked off. But I understand, like, Minshew is more aggressive. Going back to the Vikings game, he made a couple of nice passes off platform, and he does have the mobility factor. Not that he's a super athlete or anything, but like he's just a little bit more nimble. He's more nimble than O'Connell is.
a lot more nimble. Yeah. I mean, he's a super athlete compared to Aidan, I think. But I think in hindsight, maybe we looked at it the wrong way. All of us, I think we kind of, there's all this talk coming in about Aidan's going to be the first snap. He's got this new swagger. I think they're trying to build him up, and they're hoping he's going to take the job and kind of run with it. Kind of, like you said, separation was on him more than it was on Gardner as far as kind of, hey, you were here last year. These guys know you. Devontae likes you. You're at the swagger now and some confidence, and he definitely did. Kind of take this job and run with it. You should be able to kind of beat out Gardner. But I wouldn't say watching him every day in camp and preseason, you really saw any positive strides as far as like improvement, like, oh, Aidan's getting better at this, or he struggled a lot during camp, as did Gardner. They both had some really bad days at camp. So, I mean, I just think in that case, And Antonio mentioned the first quarter of the schedule. They have like these three teams in the Chargers, the Ravens, and Browns with tough pass rushes. So I think you just, you know what, give me the veteran guy who can escape a little bit, and we'll see where it goes from there. I think I'm not sure there's a huge difference in terms of the upside on both guys. I think they're kind of in the same realm, but yeah, I think it. I think it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you hope for more of a year two leap with any player, and O'Connell didn't really display that. I mean, I thought he had a better preseason last year personally, and probably a better training camp too. Even in OTAs, like when Jimmy Garoppolo was out due to injury, like he looked better than he did this year. And so obviously it's different years, everything's not the same, new system. There's different factors that played into that, but given the fact that he's also 26 years old, or he's going to be 26 years old this season already, and he hasn't shown many strides, it's fair to question, like, does he have upside, or is he just a guy that he is what he is? And if he is what he is, we saw last year while they, won 5 games in his 10 starts and looked all right. Gardner Minshew's highs have been higher, in terms of his career so far. Like we've seen him play at a better level, whether that was with the Jaguars or last year with the Colts. And so, you can see the logic behind it. Doesn't mean like Minshew's going to be particularly good, but I can see why they think he might fare better than O'Connell early in the season.
Yeah, it kind of speaks to what the coaching staff thinks about O'Connell's ceiling because, like typically if it's a competition close, you go with the young guy because there's, potential untapped ceiling there that they might be able to reach with more experience. He's only played less than a full season, but if you're going to go with Minshew and you know who Minshew is because he has so much, film in NFL, where that ceiling is. And the coaching staff has seen O'Connell every single day. I guess it's just they don't really expect him to get much better than he is right now.
It's also tough because, like both quarterbacks mentioned after the Cowboys game, that they missed some reads. I think there's still definitely an adjustment with Getsy's offense as far as learning where to look and the progressions and what Luke wants. So I think both guys are still kind of adapting to the offense, which is why there was some struggles. And now, Gardner's got 2.5 weeks to kind of get in a room with, film room with Devontae, watch film, have extra throws, other receivers, and Luke kind of get this thing under control. And again, he's done it in the past. He's always stepped up. Coming off the bench for guys. He did well last year in Indianapolis, so I think he has experience kind of rising to the challenge when he comes off the bench or when he gets to a new spot. So we'll have to see what he does against the Chargers week 1.
Yeah. What's the over-under on games that O'Connell ends up starting this season?
I have no idea. I think, because Gardner mentioned like a month ago when they're still in the battle, he said both guys are going to play at some point this year. I think that's probably still true. So I don't know if that's going to be because one guy's struggling or injuries. But, I would say Aidan probably gets in 3 or 4 games at some point. And just for whatever reason, ideally, the Raiders are winning for the fans out there. And it won't be the case. And Gardner kind of takes it and runs with it. But, is that likely? I'm not sure. But so I'll say 3 or 4.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if they don't both end up playing this year. Like I just don't think Minshew is that good. And by nature of that, like the offense is going to have some struggles, and so I know AP has been very adamant, like they're going to pick a guy and roll with him the whole way. But I think his tune has kind of changed a little bit on that. After the Cowboys game, he didn't seem all that enthused about making a decision, and even when he announced Minshew as a starter, he still said things are sort of still open, their evaluation process. And so if Minshew comes out there and really struggles, I don't think they're just going to stick with him just for the sake of doing so. And so I think at some point this season we'll end up seeing both guys. And typically that's not a good sign in terms of you having the guy at quarterback. If you have 2 quarterbacks, it means you don't have one. And so, we'll see. We'll see. Maybe Minshew surprises us and shuts us up. But, just hasn't been much reason to think that he's going to have, really a good year this year based on what we've seen. Something I was curious about with Ted, you probably have a better idea of this, but as we know, Luke Getsy, he's kind of have a little bit of a mixed system, some Shanahan principles, some stuff from McCarthy, but that's mostly like a timing based offense and about, kind of being more of a robotic type of quarterback. Like, do you feel like his style really fits this scheme in terms of him being a guy that bails out of the pocket a lot, takes more risks, kind of ad libs? Like, do you think that really works within Getsy's scheme?
No, that's why I thought O'Connell would be a better fit because of the timing aspect of it. I think he talks a lot about Mike McCarthy being the biggest, I think the biggest influence in his coaching career. And Mike McCarthy is classic West Coast guy, and with that type of offense, you're looking for a quarterback that could play within the timing of the offense. Precise footwork, get the ball out, that sort of thing. And I think O'Connell's actually better in doing those things than Minshew is. So I think they want that high end variance with a guy that could throw the ball deep and create some more big plays. Who knows? Maybe this is more of a Antonio Pierce decision than it is a Getsy decision. Maybe as a defensive guy, he thinks, we got to be able to hit some big plays, especially with 2 games on a road to start off their season. But yeah, I think, interestingly enough, I think O'Connell's a better fit for Getsy's system.
I do think, though, that a big part of the system is play action. I think Gardner is a lot better play action than Aidan is. So I do think Luke had a pretty good role in this decision. But I mentioned the deep ball. Neither guy, Aidan probably is a little better with deep ball than Gardner is, but neither one has a great arm, I'd say. So I think it's going to be all, that the goal is you got, Adams, Myers, Mayer, and Bowers. And it's going to be, 4 really good targets, just quick, short passes. Those guys get some yak. I think, hopefully we can run the ball as Samir White and Madison and kind of set up the play action. But I think it's all kind of predicated on the short passing. And I think, Gardner's got to do a good job getting the ball to those playmakers and getting out of the way.
Yeah, and it's a shame because it seems like this is a really interesting group of skill players, and the offensive line might be better than people expect. If Miller's back in the lineup, we'll see what happens at the right tackle position. But it just seems like this team is set up to be, could be set up to be a pretty good team. But the quarterback position is the most important position, and right now it's kind of not looking too great.
That's one way to put it.
That's fair enough. Not looking too great.
All right, last thing we'll talk about with the Cowboys game, and we'll move forward. Are we concerned about this run defense? It's the second game in a row where they have not looked good, and the more concerning part is they didn't look good against the Cowboys' second and third string offense.
Who's concerned?
I think the fans have a good amount of concern. I saw some comments on my story and on Twitter.
Are you guys concerned?
A little bit. It's like they were good at stopping the run last year. They were, I think, 21st in rushing defense last year. Obviously the defensive line was better collectively than we thought it was going to be, particularly at rushing the passer, but stopping the run was not their strong suit at all last year. And, Christian Wilkins, adding him, that's part of the equation is, what he did as a run stopper with the Dolphins, as well as being a pass rusher. And, been raving about the linebackers, Robert Spillane and Divine Diablo, that duo, and even some of the backups. So I think the expectations are higher than what they've shown so far. They've been pretty leaky in the preseason. AP, you pointed it out after the Vikings game, said the same thing after the Cowboys game. So, something they need to figure out for sure.
I have no concerns.
No concerns.
Why? Let's hear the reason.
I think that they got the talent. I think they got the depth of D-line to be fine. I think Spillane will be good. Coming off last year, Diablo's in better shape. I think he'll be a good guy to plug the gaps. And I just think that, for me, the preseason, in this case especially, is kind of irrelevant. I'm not a big preseason guy, so I'm not going to get too worried about giving up 5 yards of carry to some running back I never heard of, behind some blockers I never heard of. So I just think
that's not concerning?
No,
they're getting blocked by guys you never heard of?
Are they really? I don't think it's a priority at this point for these guys to kind of really dominate the run defense. They're out there just trying to survive and get to the regular season, kind of get in good shape. And I think mentally it's kind of hard to get up for. I just don't. Again, I know some people get really excited about the preseason. In Denver, all of a sudden, Bo Nix is Drew Brees, and I think everyone's going crazy. But again, we'll wait and see till the real game start. And I think this team is built for success up front. I think Wilkins is going to be good against the run. I think Maxx has gotten better every year. Koonce, good guys in the middle. I mentioned linebackers. I think linebackers are going to be pretty good, those 2 guys I mentioned. So I'm not concerned at all about the run defense this year. And maybe I'm just being an optimist, and sometimes I'm way too optimistic about things. But, that's me.
Yeah, I think Wilkins will be better against the run. I think the D tackle spot opposite of him will have to be more stout and be able to hold those double teams, not allowing offensive linemen to get to the second level. Whether that's John Jenkins, but I mean, it can't just be Jenkins. They need somebody else to kind of step up and be that that guy that could just hold on to some blocks. And I think the linebackers are good, but they're not huge. You don't want Diablo taking on blocks. So, who is that going to be? We'll see. I think the scheme is pretty vanilla right now, and I think in the regular season they'll depend on more movement up front. Yeah. Like there's not a very big front, so they're going to depend on trying to confuse the offensive lineman a little bit. Add a little bit more movement. So that'll come into play. But they don't need to be one of the top run defenses. As long as they could finish somewhere in that 15 to 20 range, I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, that's another big reason why I don't really care, because I don't think Graham's showing anything as far as the scheme or what they're going to do in terms of stunts or different looks. I think it's pretty vanilla. So, I think this defense, Nate Hobbs, another guy who can help fill some of the gaps, and safeties are good. I think they've taken turns kind of playing against the run or playing deep. So I think it's a pretty good defense. And I'm not sure if it's elite like some fans think, but I think it's going to be the least of the Raiders' worries this season.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I put more stock into it is because they weren't good at it last year either. It's not just I don't really care too much about the preseason either, but I think it was a priority at some point last season. So they still couldn't stop the run. So something they want to improve at if they're going to take that next leap to be in a truly elite defense. I think it's going to have to be better than what we've seen so far.
We'll say I think Jack Jones has to be better too. He missed a few tackles in that game. I think
against the run, Jack Jones gets the run. Let's go play the pass. Do your thing. Don't worry about tackling the run, guys. That's fine.
He's at least willing to do it. He's not like Marcus Peters where he's going to Olay guys, but he's at least willing. But he's kind of
we got to let Marcus Peters go.
Leave Marcus alone, man.
15 weeks.
Leave Marcus alone, man. Rest in peace.
Yeah. And by the way, Jack Jones, I got you to a 77, man. You had a chance to hit 80. You had a chance to hit 80 overall on Madden. I was talking to a Madden ratings adjuster, watching the game with them.
Wow.
And he was willing to put you up to an 80 if you played well. And then you gave up that touchdown, and he's like, nope, 77 is the highest I'll go. So
What a name drop. I was watching the game with the Madden evaluator.
Yeah, this guy. What a cool one.
Man. What else we got? What else are we concerned about?
I guess there's maybe something that you're more concerned about. You brought it up last week, I think, last week's episode, the offensive line. Kolton Miller, he returned to practice this week for the first time this year. He hasn't practiced since last season due to off-season shoulder surgery. He got back out there, and yesterday he spoke to a little mini scrum of reporters and said that he expects to be ready to go in time for week 1. So that could ease some of the concerns about, their starting left tackle being on the field. But he is playing catch-up. First year in a new system, they're switching blocking schemes from more of a combination gap-based blocking scheme to more of a wide zone-based blocking scheme. And that's something that Kolton, I'm sure he's done before, but not at this rate. That Luke Getsy is going to use it, so that's an adjustment. Getting used to a new left guard next to him. It seems like it's going to be Cody Whitehair to start the season because Jackson Powers Johnson is still working his way back in. But there's a couple question marks on that offensive line. I think some fair questions, and I know that was something that you seemed a little bit concerned about. So did Kolton Miller coming back ease those concerns at all for you?
A little bit, but I agree with you. It's going to be, I think, a little rocky at first. I think it's going to be an adjustment period even for him. He's a vet, but again, it's a new scheme, a new quarterback, new guys next to him. So I think it's going to be kind of a rough couple of weeks. Not rough, but maybe a slow adjustment. I'm not crazy about the right tackle spot either. I think it's not a great sign that Thayer Mumford is having a hard time holding off a rookie, DJ Glaze. You would think Thayer's been around long enough where he should have definitely, hey, this is my job. Get the hell out of here, and but he's. I think it's closer than a lot of people think as far as what's going to happen there. So they might bring a guy off waivers. I think that's also a possibility. So the right side of the line is probably more concerning to me than the left side. And but again, I think that's one of the reasons why we talked about Gardner, why he's playing. I think he can get out of trouble more than Aidan can. So I think that might be the case the first few weeks.
Yeah, I think this offensive line is interesting because it could go a lot of ways. I think they could be an average line if some guy like Jackson Powers makes an instant impact when he does actually play and really upgrade that spot. And if DJ Glaze can pan out and be an average starter, maybe this line, could be a little better than expected. So it's I don't know. It's hard to predict how this line's going to go. I don't think they're going to be terrible, but probably going to be at least below average to start the season.
Wow.
Damn.
I know we're talking about terrible. What's the ideal timeline for Powers Johnson? What are we thinking? Get him in there by week 2 or 3, or longer than that?
I don't know, man. It's tricky. I don't want to he had a concussion and he had multiple concussions in college, and so he's back practicing now and he's out of the non-contact jersey. So it seems like he's healthy. So I don't think it's a matter of like him getting back to being healthy enough to play. But he is a rookie and he essentially hasn't really practiced this year. I mean, he missed a large chunk of OTAs, basically missed all the training camp. He's going through the same transition system-wise as Kolton Miller is, except for he doesn't have the experience. And so I don't think they want to rush him too much. And Whitehair, he was like okay, I guess, at left guard last season for the Bears. Like he wasn't like the worst in the league. I still think he'd be better than, Greg Van Roten from last year. So at least he should be an improvement in that area. But you want to see Jackson Powers Johnson out there at some point. But I don't think it's something where you want to rush him in before he's really ready, and he ends up being worse than Whitehair or a situation like that.
Yeah, when he drafted guard in the second round, he's supposed to be an impact guy. So obviously he's a guy that need to come up sooner or later, but definitely a guy they're counting on to have a big role in this offense this year.
Yeah, and a lot of the offensive line gurus love Jackson Powers Johnson for his physicality, and obviously we know the run game is going to be a big part of this offense. So if they can't be an elite pass blocking unit or an above average pass blocking unit, they have to at least be a better than average run blocking unit for this offense to really work. And we'll see, if they can do that.
Yeah, I guess really I'm the other question on the offense right now. It seems like it's more precautionary than anything, but tight end Brock Bowers, he didn't play in the second preseason game against the Cowboys, and he had some practice this week, so he probably I would assume he's not playing against the 49ers either. It doesn't seem like it's something too serious. I feel like we would have gotten more firm word if it was, but I know that's something that like people have been freaking out a little bit about, but it seems like he will probably be ready to go for week 1 as well.
Yeah, they're just bringing the odds down on the Rookie of the Year. It's 50-1. Now drop a little bit. Later fans will jump on there and get rich. It's going to be great.
All right, 53-man roster predictions. Whose spot is still up in the air in this coming into this final preseason game?
A lot of the guys in the secondary, I think that's for sure. There's a lot of spots open in the secondary, and I think also you mentioned coming off waivers, you might get some guys off waivers, so those guys may not have jobs for long, but I think that's a key place to watch. I think some linebackers we mentioned before, the Bruni and Gaynor battle for that last linebacker spot. So that's a good one. So aren't that many spots, I don't think, Tashan. Do you agree? Aren't that many spots open?
Yeah, I don't think it's like a situation where they're going to have like surprise cuts or anything like that. It seems more about just figuring out what does the end of the roster look like. The fifth, if they're going to keep 5 or 6 receivers, which linebackers are they going to keep? The secondary, like you said, some reserve defensive tackles maybe could be an interesting spot to watch, but nothing. I won't say not of consequence, but probably not of a lot of consequence this season in terms of guys that are going to get a lot of playing time. It's mostly special teams guys at this point, and so I think the more interesting thing would be to see what happens after roster cuts happen. Like you mentioned on the waiver wire, the Raiders have about $35 million in cap space. So if some other teams have surprising cuts at positions of need, as we talked about, cornerback or offensive tackle or some of the other spots on the roster, seeing if they could be active on that market. For people that don't know, teams have until 1 p.m. Pacific time on Tuesday to make their roster cuts down to 53 men. And so every year there's always somebody that gets cut that we didn't see coming. And so maybe that could be a day where the Raiders are, able to add some help at a couple positions of need.
We were talking to Tom Telesco yesterday at practice. So it seems like now it's kind of clear that they'll only keep 2 quarterbacks. I think they'll probably keep 2 guys and hopefully try to get back either Carter Bradley or Nathan Peterman for the practice squad. I think that's the plan right now. opens up another spot in the roster for somebody else. So that's also interesting. And you mentioned the D tackles. I think it's a good battle between Anessa Jade Silvera and Byron Young. Last year's third round pick last year or second round? Third round.
Third round.
Yeah, so I think it's a key game for him. Kind of he's bounced back a little bit. He had a good camp, not a great preseason, but I think he's definitely in the bubble. So it's a guy who needs a big game against the 49ers.
All right. Is there a bubble? Is there a bubble guy that either of you guys feel strongly about that you think have some potential and you want to see him make that final roster?
What you got, Tashan?
I think we might have the same guy. I think we've both been impressed with Amari Gaynor, linebacker, undrafted rookie. I think he's been pretty impressive. Like he's kind of similarly built to Devon Diablo. Like he's more of a slimmer linebacker, pretty tall guy. He moved around a lot in college. He actually was at Florida State when I covered Florida State a long time ago, which is kind of weird that he's a rookie. But he's played inside linebacker, outside linebacker. I think in North Carolina he lined up at pass rusher a little bit, so he seems like a versatile guy. Not to say that he would, crack the linebacker rotation, but maybe a developmental guy for the future that could contribute on special teams. As we've talked about a bunch, like with the kickoff rule. The guys that are on that team matter a lot more this year since they're going to have to make a lot more plays, and so he seems like a guy that has some promise. Maybe a small, lesser known guy that's not the biggest name that could make the roster and maybe end up having out a solid role on the team that people wouldn't have expected.
Yeah, Gingers had a nice camp, a nice preseason. Another guy was a guy I read about today, my guy Will Putnam, backup center. I think he's making a push. I think he also can play guard. Played guard also at Clemson. I love how he got in a fight last week with Maxx and Spillane, kind of held his own, and I think his lineman loved that his attitude and kind of his toughness. And he's a guy who I think you're in danger if you cut him. He might get picked up, I think, because of his versatility, and he has a pretty good college background. 49 straight starts at Clemson, had a good camp. So he's a guy you may want to try and stash for maybe a future role down the road. But he's the guy who's made a nice push the last few weeks.
Yeah, my guy, Fotheringham, man. He could have had a big game against the Cowboys, but the QB play just was so bad he couldn't get the ball. So
it wasn't his fault.
It doesn't cost him his job.
It wasn't his fault. I think he's behind the other guys. They got him Gentry. I think he's actually behind Gentry, so he may be in trouble.
I blame Minshew and O'Connell.
Chris Gentry is his name. I believe he's more a bigger guy, but I think he's the fourth tight end if there was going to be a fourth tight end at this point. I'm not sure there will be four.
Yeah, in terms of, again, I don't think there's any big names that's going to get cut or anything like that, but I think a guy that is more in jeopardy now is Brandon Faison. He's missed a lot of training camp with an undisclosed injury. He was hurt all of last year. I'm pretty sure his salary, the rest of it is non-guaranteed, so they wouldn't be on the hook for any of it at this point.
Have you guys actually seen him? Have you guys physically seen him?
He's around, yeah. He exists. Saw him in the locker room after the
seen
game.
him. No, he's not there.
Yeah.
He's got locker. Somebody comes in and moves clothes around. He's actually not in the building. No, he's there.
Yeah, he hasn't been practicing. So, I mean, the depth at cornerback is a little concerning. I mean, we saw I don't know if this is more, again, it might just be a precautionary thing, but Nate Hobbs didn't practice yesterday, and they don't really have, a true backup nickel right now. So they had Isaiah Pulumau, the safety, playing nickel in practice, and that kind of, highlights some of the depth issues that they have at cornerback. I think even on the outside, I think they feel pretty good about obviously Jack Jones, but also Jacorian Bennett at this point. But who else would be there? DeCameron Richardson, he's had a good camp, but he's a rookie, more of a raw guy, not a guy that I think they really want to lean on super heavily this year. And so, if they do end up moving on from Faison, you would have to think that even increases the urgency for them to add a veteran cornerback even more, whether that's somebody that's an outright free agent or gets waived on Tuesday. So that feels like a position to watch for sure.
Yeah, I think they'll be very aggressive on waiver day. I think they'll probably add, I'm going to say 4 guys, maybe 5 guys, I think. I think they're definitely looking at other teams and watching. The scouts are definitely busy. So they know they have some holes at the bottom of this roster. Faison definitely is a guy who they love to count on, but they haven't been able to. So at some point, that's just not a good thing. So I think he's a good player. He's been dependable, a backup, and he started at times for the Raiders a couple of years back. And he'd be a good fit, but you have to be on the field to be a good fit. So that's kind of been a problem for him in terms of the trust from coaching staff and teammates.
And the waiver wire, the way it works, it basically goes by draft order. So since they had the 13th pick, they're pretty high up there on the list. So should have a decent shot at getting some guys that they might have some interest in.
Is there any concern with Nate Hobbs starting week 1, or is this he'll be fine?
It doesn't seem like that big of a deal, I don't think.
Yeah. So they call it big nickel when you put a safety in at nickel, and Pal Mal's 6'4", so that's a huge nickel, and that'll be pretty interesting, I think. Does he have the man-to-man skills to play some nickel, or do they just like him there because the run defense?
I mean, I don't know who else they're going to put there for one, but I think he's had a strong training camp. I don't know about man-to-man coverage and whatnot, like how good he is in that area, but we've seen teams use big nickels effectively before. Not saying he's this caliber of player, but like the Ravens last year with Hamilton, like he spent a lot of time at nickel, and I think he's like 6'4" too. So we've seen guys with that body type pull it off. But again, like I don't think I think I could see him playing there this season, but more of like a rotational sort of role. Like I think Nate Hobbs, he's had some injury issues throughout his career, and so they might try to be a little bit smarter with managing him, how many times he's running into offensive linemen and tight ends and things of that nature in the run game. And so maybe in some more obvious rundown situations, it'd make more sense to pull him out there to get some additional run support. And he's a skinnier guy, so it's not like he's another linebacker, but just a bigger body that maybe could help take on some of that punishment, so that Nate Hobbs doesn't have to do it all the time.
Also, this point of the year, you're kind of plugging guys in and try different spots, because versatility kind of maybe in case of emergency, or just what the possible roles could be off the bench. Like Andres Pete's been doing left tackle all camp. Now he's back at guard, working different guard spots, trying to see where he can fit in if need be. So I think we mentioned the quarterbacks. I think at some point, I'm going to give Jacoby Myers some snaps in case emergency happens to be your third guy if we have 2 guys in the active roster. So you just try things out in case everything goes wrong. And then you got 2.5 weeks now to kind of get those guys ready in case anything happens, and also start preparing for the Chargers, get some scheme going, some game plans going for that week 1 matchup.
Well, the quarterback thing, there's a new rule this year. They changed it to where you can designate a guy on the practice squad as like your emergency quarterback. So I'm sure they'll keep at least one of the guys on the practice squad, but you don't have to make them on the active roster, just as long as it's like the day before the game, you say this guy's the emergency quarterback, and then if both of the quarterbacks get hurt or if one gets kicked out the game or whatever, then they can come into the game. So they can keep, let's say, Carter Bradley on the practice squad and have him be the emergency quarterback without actually using up a roster spot. So nice little tweak this year we can use.
I might want to see Jacoby over Nathan Peterman.
Damn. You just wrote a feature about him today, man.
No, I said Peterman.
Yeah.
I said Bradley, I said Peterman. I'm kidding. That was a joke. Joke.
Oh, Peterman. Yeah, I think I'd probably rather see Jacoby than Peterman.
See? All right, then. Yeah. Ted?
So we have one final red hot quarterback competition in this Niner game for that final special designated emergency quarterback spot for the Raiders.
Yeah, man. So, tomorrow's going to be something, man. Carter Bradley and Nathan Peterman show. At least the 49ers are going to play their starters, apparently. So we'll see.
It could be the guy who actually plays worse gets a spot, because if you play better, it might get claimed by somebody else, right? So the guy who plays worse gets practice squad spot.
Okay, so they should both just try to throw as many pick sixes as possible.
Pretty much.
Okay, cool.
All right, one last, take or question.
Ooh,
maybe it doesn't even make sense. But
I can't wait. What a build up! All right, here we
go. What would it take for the Raiders to get Tyson Bagnet or Bajan?
I can't say his name.
What?
Oh my god!
Yeah, Bajan.
Jesus Christ!
What would it take?
Instead of fuck talking about Tyson,
you gotta take shots.
We're not talking about Tyson. We're not talking about Tyson. We talk about what's up with you and names.
Let me just say, he played very well last week.
Tyson
Bagnet come from?
Tyson Bajan. His dad is was a world champion
arm wrestler. Yeah,
arm wrestler, right? So
yeah,
just based on that alone, sign him up.
He knows Getsy system. He's the second-year player potential.
All right, man, let's do it.
We had enough negative quarterback talk. We're not going.
Brandon face on for Tyson Badgett. Let's do it. I'm in.
All right.
Who says no?
Nobody says
both. Both.
I mean, if they could find Brandon Hassan, maybe, but
he's there, dude.
I'm still not convinced he's in Las Vegas.
I'm
still not convinced he ever made it to Las Vegas.
Man, this is terrible, dude. Poor guy trying to rehab and got Ted questioning his whereabouts. Not good, man. Not good.
I'm just kidding.
All right, thanks, you guys, for joining us. Don't leave quite yet. We got the Malcolm Koonce interview coming up. Some good stuff from one of the budding pass rushers of the NFL.
All right, everybody, let's welcome Malcolm Koonce to the podcast, breakout pass rusher for the Raiders, a player I think fans want to know a lot more about. So thanks for making the time to come on. How you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
Great.
Yeah, can't complain. Obviously, you guys wrapped up, training camp officially. Split between Costa Mesa and Vegas. What was your favorite part of training camp this year?
Definitely the weather in Costa Mesa. Usually, the first few camp days in Vegas gets rough with the heat, getting acclimated. So.
Yeah.
What gives you the most confidence about this team this year?
I think we got a whole bunch of guys that understand what we got to do to get where we want to go. So.
You went on a tear on the last 9 games of the season. What do you think led to you to start having more success? And I remember watching you at Buffalo. You had so many moves in your bag already, a lot more than a typical young pass rusher. But you have to put those moves into a pass rush plan. What would say the biggest difference between your plan early in your career and now to the point you are at right now?
I think it was just getting acclimated. Obviously, college and the league are two different things. So it's the things you do in college, you can do them in the league, but you kind of have to understand the different nuances to what you got to do. So it's kind of just trusting my coaching, trying to get back to myself and just understanding what works for me, how a move that I see Max do will look for me in that sense. So.
Yeah. And what gives you the confidence to try a new move in a game? Does it take, a thousand reps in practice before you really bust it out? And is it premeditated, or does it just kind of happen?
I mean, it can be all three of those. So it can be you practicing a move, and then you break it out on game day, or you just on the field playing kind of fluid and just trying anything at one point. So it's kind of all that.
And part of the change last year, Patrick Graham talked about, not just with you, but with the defense as a whole. He tried to put guys in roles that fit their skill set a little bit better last year. What changed about how you were used, and how did that kind of help open up your game last year?
I think there was more trust, I guess. I mean, when you're a young guy, it's you the whole name of the game is to earn trust from the coaching staff. So I guess getting more trust and understanding I like to have a certain type of rush, or I like to rush one side, or this, that, and the third. So stuff like that.
Antonio Pierce said he thought there was a change in your demeanor last season. Was that for obvious reasons, or what do you think kind of triggered that change for you?
What do you mean by obvious reasons?
I meant the coaching change. I mean, obviously the regime change was my husband.
I mean, it was that. It was everything. I just wanted to play good, and that's pretty much it. I mean, it's something that's constantly on my mind, trying to perform and actually just show up. So,
is it a confidence thing? Did you have more confidence the last few years than you had the first 2 years when you were at it?
I don't think it was confidence. I think it was more just understanding how things can work for me. So.
And those first couple of years in the league, like you said, you were a young guy trying to find your way a little bit. Didn't get to play as consistently as obviously as you did in college. How did you kind of deal with that mentally at the time to sort of, keep yourself motivated to keep pushing, even though the opportunities weren't necessarily coming on game days?
I think, I don't know, just keep my head down and keep working, knowing that what I want is in front of me and it's going to show up eventually. So, just pretty much that. And also hearing guys like Max or other guys in the D-line room just saying you're doing the right thing. You're doing all people in the weight room telling me you're doing the right thing. Just keep at it, stuff like that. So.
And your dad, Jeffrey Koonce, he's been he's pretty intense dude, but he said he's really diligent about raising you and your brothers a certain type of way when you were coming up. I guess, what do you remember the most about your upbringing, and how has that continued to shape you today?
Well, my daddy's a character. He's a very outspoken man, to say the least. I mean, growing up with all my brothers, my dad made a big emphasis on we're all family is the most important thing. So no matter what, even if little things say I go to the store and go pick up something, I always got to come back and like get something from my like brothers or like get little snacks and stuff. So like something as little as that like translates to big things now as we're older and stuff. So stuff like that he instilled in us.
With you, being very family oriented and that being something that's important to you, like, was it a tough transition at first, moving out here to Vegas? I mean, that's
Oh yeah,
pretty far
definitely.
from New York.
When I first got out here, it was my first time ever being on the West Coast. It was my first time ever playing outside of New York, so it definitely was a shock to the system, to say the least.
Coming out of high school, what were your thoughts as far as colleges? Not even how'd you end up at the prep academy?
I didn't have the best grades, so that'll make you go to prep school. It was a decision between prep school or junior college. So my parents decided that that'd be the smartest thing for me to go to prep school. So I went there.
How did the experience kind of shape you? Was that something you look back on as a positive step for you?
Yeah, definitely. The way the prep school was set up, it was very bare bones, to say the least. So I don't know. It kind of made me like think about like where I want to go. Like I can either like really hone in and really lock in and get what I want to go, like going to the NFL, or I can end my career right there because of like grades and studying and stuff like that. So yeah.
Was there a moment that was like a turning point for you in that area where you sort of made that commitment to like, really, really commit yourself to what you were doing and go for it?
Yeah, definitely. I think the time I went to prep school, because it was like I'll say a crossroads of like seeing my friends or seeing people that I was close to choose other paths that isn't football compared to like people that still like, you know what, I'm gonna go, or other friends that went the other way that went to play D1 ball somewhere or play ball somewhere. So stuff like that was kind of like a turning point of like me making the decision on what I truly wanted.
Got it. And you said earlier that you had to kind of figure out what worked for you in this league, and it seems like even though you are a smaller rusher compared to these really big edge rushers, like the power rush, the long arm is like the base of your rush. Like, what's the secret to making that work as kind of a smaller edge rusher?
I mean, there's a lot of things. I think what's making it work for me is like leverage, because like somebody can be stronger than you and bigger than you, whatever, but football is a game of leverage. So strength only takes you so far if like I'm lower than you or like I have a better center of gravity than you. So I think that's what works a lot of times for me when it comes to power and stuff.
I know after the military academy, or not the military academy, but the prep school, you
Yeah.
went on to play at Buffalo.
Yeah.
Obviously, they have, a guy coming out of there, Khalil Mack, that was kind of a similar type of build, type of guy, and obviously went high in the draft. Did you kind of hear any comparisons about that going to Buffalo, and kind of, was he a guy that served as a mentor at all for you when your time?
Well, my first day there, they have I don't know if it's still there, but they had a huge banner of them. So you kind of already knew like the kind of like how the school looked at him and stuff like that. So, and then also when I was there, I went there with his younger brother, Ladarius Mack. So like some of the like the preseason stuff, like the summer workouts that we would have, he would come by and kind of coach us up sometimes. So like that was a cool experience. So but I didn't really get comparisons. The only time I ever got like kind of weird comparisons was in the draft. But I just think it's because we both went to Buffalo, we're both pass rushers. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah. I mean, was it kind of cool for you though to not to say that you were trying to follow in his footsteps, but like for y'all to both go to Buffalo and then both end up getting drafted by the Raiders?
Yeah, it's definitely cool. Especially like those summer workouts when he was in the building, everybody was like, Khalil Mack is in the building. So like it's definitely dope. So
Was he the one that gave you the secret to making a long arm work? Because I remember that was one of his best moves.
no, I watched film on him, obviously. So
Yeah.
I already knew like it would be a thing. So but I never like actually asked him generally for like a tip on how the long arm works or something like that.
And coming into the league, you mentioned him earlier. Obviously, Maxx Crosby, you played with him your whole career. What's been his biggest contribution to your career so far in terms of just being a teammate, being a mentor, somebody that's kind of helped you along the way during your NFL career so far?
I mean everything, just like teaching you how to be a pro, just like chasing him around, trying to implement. I can't say the word, sorry, but trying to be like him, I guess, and on the
Yeah.
practice field or in the weight room. I feel like if you just try to imitate him a little bit, it'll get you better. So So I think it was that. And also, like, I think I say all the time that I've been very, like, fortunate to have a whole bunch of good rushers around me. Like, my whole, like, career I had Yannick, Chandler, and stuff like that. So
I understand that the defensive linemen take turns having dinners over. They host dinners for the teammates.
yeah.
Byron Young said you had the worst one last year.
I got to step it up.
What'd you do? What went wrong? What was the
Just
game plan?
I thought I was gonna go to one place, and then I told the guys, and the guys was like, it's too far, and I was like, all right. So it was like kind of like a last minute thing, but I'm gonna step it up.
Who had the best one last year?
The best one? Are you talking about out of the D lineman? Because I know Devontae, he had one.
Right. No, I guess it's the D lineman. Yes, give it to your group.
So D lineman, I would probably say Maxx. I'd say either Maxx or Matt Butler. There's a spot that I think that was his dinner. I'm not sure.
What was the spot? In Vegas?
I have no clue. It was a steakhouse. It was nice.
Nice. What do those things do for you guys? Why are they important to have those kind of weekly dinners?
It's always nice to like change the scenery, kind of like be able to just throw on a game, just kind of watch it just normally, not watch it like how you cut up film or stuff like that, just to kind of like just change it up.
We got questions from fans for you. Start off with this is Michael Farnetti. He asked, "Are you currently engaged in any contract extension talks?"
Nah, I haven't talked anything contract wise.
Something that's on your mind at all? Or you kind of leave it for the future, I guess.
Nah, I'm not that type of guy. Me, I gotta be where my feet are, so kind of just being in the moment.
Gotcha.
Going into every year is important when you're in the NFL, obviously, but I mean, you are going into like the last year on your rookie deal. Did you sort of enter this season with any sort of like change in your mindset or goal that you set for yourself to try to continue to elevate your game? Like, what was sort of the aim getting ready for this season?
I think the aim for this season was that I kind of figured out something, and I just kind of want to keep it rolling. So more like that, not like I'm come back to be like Superman or anything. Just I know what it takes for me to get ready. So just kind of like staying true to that. So.
And you mentioned you had a lot of good pass rushing teammates. But, outside of Maxx, like what pass rushers, current or historical, do you watch to learn from? This question's from Genevo Gonzalez.
I've watched a whole bunch of guys. I've watched I remember when I first got into football, my dad made me watch Lawrence Taylor highlight tapes. Just he would throw it on. Like, you got to watch it. So stuff like that. Bruce Irving, I watched him a lot because of Khalil Mack. And then I saw there was an edge rusher next to him that kind of like, and because all throughout like high school and once I like started taking football real serious, I started to like watching rushers that were around my like that were similar to my like build and how I play. So like people like him, who else? Of course, Von Miller, Hassan Reddick. Yeah, there's more. There's definitely more. I just can't think right now.
And I guess on the final note, this was from Settle It. He asked, the leap that you made last season, just as a player, what aspect of your game do you think improved the most to allow you to do that? And what helped you the most to get to that point? Whether it was, I don't know if it was something that you did personally, if there was a teammate, a coach, a trainer, somebody that helped you along the way. Like what sort of did it for you last season?
I think it was a whole bunch of stuff. It wasn't just like one sole thing. Like you have people like, of course, I mentioned Maxx a whole bunch of times. You got Maxx keep like being in my ear all last season, especially like early in the year. Like I was still rushing well, but I wasn't like getting the stats. So him being in my ear, telling me like, yeah, like just keep at it. It's gonna come. Like don't get frustrated. If you get frustrated, that's when it goes bad. So stuff like that, or even Robbie, my D-line coach, him helping me with like rush angles and like telling me how I need to rush, like where I need to put my body when it comes to like being at the top of the rush, or if I do an inside move or during games. And then also like people like AB telling me like, because I usually play next to AB, so him telling me like, oh, you do this, I cover you here, or if you play it this way, just it was a collective thing.
And for yourself, I mean, I know you say you're very much so like staying where your feet are and staying on the present, but I mean, this off season, I'm sure you saw like, getting more, I guess, reaction from fans about how you played last year. You got the Von Miller Pass Rush Summit. I remember Maxx called you up in the circle at some point to kind of explain what helped you break through last season. Has it been kind of cool, not just for yourself, but also like, your family to kind of see you kind of start to have that breakthrough?
Yeah, it's definitely surreal. It's definitely dope. My dad loves it. He sends me everything, like literally everything. So yeah, it's definitely a good experience.
I got one more for you. I'm gonna go get some lunch. You're the wings guy from Buffalo. Where are the best wings in Las Vegas?
In Las Vegas, I have not been. I've not. I've not been to a place in Vegas that I've enjoyed the wings yet. So
Okay.
it's kind
All right.
of disappointing. So
What's your spot back in Buffalo?
there's a few spots. You got Elmo's. Elmo's is top tier.
Almost
That's
the
like
best.
close to the UB campus. But I think the best is probably a place called Barbell.
Okay.
Yeah,
I've been to Elmo's. I haven't been to Barbell. So.
yeah, you gotta try Barbell. Barbell is top tier.
All right, I'll make a note.
Now we know where to go.
Yeah.
Okay. We
man.
appreciate your time. We appreciate you having you on, and Raider Nation is excited to see what this defensive line and what you can do next year.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks again.
All right.
Have a good one.
You too.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you guys after the Niner game for episode 6.
All right, y'all. Peace.
2 more weeks, guys. 2 more weeks.